New Hawthorn captain Jai Newcombe hit with a dangerous tackle suspension, but the Hawks are bound for the tribunal in hope their premier midfielder might still face the Giants.
Premiership defender Stephen May announces his immediate retirement, completing Melbourne's off-season purge.
And as opening round launches in Sydney, we're stacked to begin our season. Greg Swann having seen the dry run for the rule changes, plus Chris Scott and Michael Voss on Coaches Night.
I said to the players today, can you help me? I'm on 360 tonight.
Are you aware of that conversation?
Yeah, I don't live under a rock.
The reality is now that the gloves are off, ball's fair and love more.
My job is pretty clear. Make Hawthorn win.
Wouldn't be very good at hide and seek, Mitch, I reckon.
Marco Polo.
Marco.
I can't have that. What do you want us to play worse?
When you caught my eye and Mustang.
I reckon it's just about the greatest prize that's ever happened in footy.
Nurse had a look at it, she said, there's a dent in that cup. And I had a bit of a look and sure enough there is.
I guess a dent in the cup is better than a hole in the bucket. Gary Lyon, welcome back.
Here we go again, Jared. Good to be here. Yeah, off-season goes quick, doesn't it? 2nd of March. Early start, Jared. We like an early start.
With rain pouring in Melbourne, it does feel a bit like footy.
This footy season about to get underway, and we've had the preliminaries, and there's lots to talk about.
I wasn't sure whether we'd get you back after the escapades of Origin when you went part EJ Whitten, part Gus Gould. I thought, this mightn't satisfy you anymore.
I know. I tell you, if you could have that team that we had as your home and away team, Jared, I wouldn't be back here.
All right, so I did a little bit of prying. Right, so what was Gary's role? And I'm seeing the vision from the meeting inside going, right, the chief affirming officer. Yep, that's right. Yes, I've got it all. That's exactly how we should be going about it.
That's right.
And then it took a rather odd... No. What was he giving you there that you didn't like?
He said he was going to start Toby Green on the bench. I said, no, not after I spoke to Toby. We're not starting him on the bench. He's going to come in, Chris Scott. I might ask him about that.
So salute to you, you were one of the great believers in the industry that Origin still had its place, and that was proven to us last month.
I think it's a fantastic addition to the off-season, Jared. 2 weeks ago now, seems like a lifetime, but it just got us back in the mood for footy. The boys loved it, the players loved it. There's a few creaks, there's a few aches and pains that have come out of it, but it was worth it, I think, well worth it.
All right, so Chris Scott's going to join us at the desk. Michael Voss is Greg Swann. The AFL's been in touch with its clubs during the day, so he'll convey to you what we've all been told around the way the rules were implemented through the community series. And then Couch returns with Jack Jordan, Nathan and Jonathan Brown in place. Let's get into the agenda. At the top of it is a man who will no longer be a part of the 2026 season. Premiership defender Stephen May brought a close to a tumultuous off-season. He took the resolution to retire from footy.
You know, if you listen to what Stephen's saying and how he addressed the group, he's taken responsibility for where things are at. He hasn't been at the club now for the better part of 5 weeks, so he's a long way behind in where he should be from pre-season. Ultimately, us as a club, we've got standards and values that we expect everybody at the football club to meet. Stephen knew he wasn't meeting those, so took the decision to retire. We wanted to make sure that, first and foremost, given the challenges that Stephen was going through, he was supported. But we also, need to recognise that it's more than just Stephen inside the footy club. We've got standards and values that need to be met. If Stephen couldn't meet those, like anyone else, they need to think about what their future is, and Stephen on this occasion decided that he couldn't focus on his family and his own self as well as meeting the rigours of AFL football, so he's decided to retire.
He was heading down this path really from October when Melbourne met with Stephen May, told him if he could find a new home, go, free to a good home essentially. And in a competition where there is a dearth of big key defenders, he couldn't find one as no one was prepared to offer him that lifeline. It has become more tumultuous as the off-season has gone on, and to hear the standards and values, this felt like the right outcome.
Yeah, I think Stephen, by his own admission, had become a distraction for a football club that's starting, trying to reset. There's been big change down at the footy club, and I think the decision in the end was the right one. How will he be remembered? I don't think there's any doubt in the world that he goes down as one of the 23 heroes that was able to deliver Melbourne Footy Club a premiership when it looked at times, in my supporting days, that may never have happened, and the role that he played during that time. I mean, we'll dissect his career, and it will be dissected in the next couple of days. He was an unbelievably good footy player. But ultimately, you can act your way out of a footy club too, Jared. I think there's an element of that as well with Stephen King, and he'll be remembered as a 250-game, two-time All-Australian Premiership player. It's a great resume who had some difficulties along the way as well.
It is. It's a complex legacy
Yeah.
because of what you've just outlined there. So he's an inaugural son. He goes on to be a co-captain there. He's a prize target for Melbourne after 8 years in the expansion market. He comes and he gets the 2 All-Australians. He's probably the story of folklore in the grand final where he plays with a torn hamstring, as is resumed later. But he has these moments where he looks like a poor teammate, the Entrecôte bust-up, the way he treated Max Gawn on the King's birthday last year, and he's had off-field, let's call them complications, which are still to fully resolve.
Yeah, and don't for one second think that most AFL Premiership clubs or successful clubs haven't had 1 or 2 difficult players that sit within that group. Now, I'm not saying that was Stephen the whole time, but it would appear that he's become difficult. And look, when you're a really good, strong footy club, you can handle that. You can handle those personalities. I think that the Geelong coach is going to join us, and what they've been able to do and how they handle some players that may not toe the line exactly is different to the way other clubs that aren't as structurally strong. So, look, I thank him. I think he'll go, as I say, as a Melbourne Premiership player, and that's the highest accolade from our footy club point of view. And I'm disappointed that he's gone out the way he has, but there's a standard that needs to be set, and he can't quite get there. And again, by his own admission, he'd become a distraction. So, out today, another player gets an opportunity as a result of it.
It felt like the sentiment from the Melbourne public was thanks, and this is the right decision because of all the change that has gone on. The planks have been stripped away, not one way or another, and this is sort of another key moment of that.
Yeah, and I think that's the world we live in now, right? So, particularly when you get to that stage of his career. But along the way, I was talking to a couple of Melbourne people today, and they, we're talking about him, but God, he was good. At a time when there was Franklin and there was Curnow and there was Hawkins, the security as a supporter to go, yeah, OK, but we've got Maisie. And he was, at his best, he was an unbelievably good footy player. So well done, good career. Hopefully, can get his life in order and, he'll, as I say, he'll always have a home at the Melbourne Footy Club as a premiership hero.
So that's what has the most permanent outcomes out of the weekend. The temporary revolve around the MRO and the suspensions that begin a season. So this is particularly bitter for Jai Newcombe at the moment. He's just been elevated to captaincy alongside James Sicily. He remains their key player in the centre of the field in the absence of Will Day. And the dangerous tackle. One arm pinned, Richards in a vulnerable position, head slaps into the ground. It looked garden variety 1 week suspension when it landed.
Yeah.
It'll get tested tomorrow night.
Well, you're much better at this than I did this game and was asked, and I said, look, it ticks a lot of boxes in terms of, he had one arm and it went to ground. I thought the fact that he hadn't been knocked out naively might have saved him. So they'll have their job cut out to try and turn it around. He was clearly Hawthorn's best player and what was ultimately a pretty disappointing night, so they'd be desperate for him to play. But, first game out, Jared, I don't reckon he does this in the 6th game. You've got to get yourself back into that mindset of going, OK, what happens? We ask so much of these players here. What am I supposed to do when I've tackled him and I'm halfway to ground? What is it again? Oh, yeah, I've got to let that arm go. Or, no, I've got to let him go. And that's sort of counterintuitive to what you do as a footballer. And we ask them to be counterintuitive in that instance. And I don't think he does that in round 5 or 6. History tells us they don't. Because I tell you all the time, players are the quickest reactors. They react and change their behaviours really quickly. And last year, Swanee will be able to tell us, we had next to no.
Yeah, so I think we've gone from mid-30s to teens to 5.
Right, yeah.
And then we start off with this. And to protect the integrity of the crackdown, this has to be sent forth.
Yes.
Hawthorn have the night to work out how to make a case to try to work their way around.
Takes us to Sam Durham, who also...
actually, you can run this past Swanee when he gets here, rather than...
Yeah, well, let's not go to Sam Durham. Let's wait till Swanee gets here, Gary, and read the rundown.
The dozy player was Jed Walter.
Oh, yeah.
Done a lot. Now, his trajectory is interesting because he wasn't in the chosen teams for the finals, so he's had the summer to stew on that, to ready himself for it. He committed himself up and down the field right through this game, but as it's fizzling out, that's just going to cost you a week every single time.
Yeah, well, that's just stupid from Jed. And there's next to nothing in it, and the only outcome that could come is he sits out round 1 and when he's in a fight for a spot with Jamarra Ugle-Hagan, and maybe Jamarra comes out and kicks 6 and he might not get his spot back in. So, no, I watched most of that game. He worked really hard and, he looked like, to me, a player that the penny had dropped and he understands that, his spot is no longer guaranteed, and now he gives it up on something stupid like that. So, no sympathy for Jed on that one.
All right, let's delve into all that transpired. It's a systems check. It's absolutely necessary for all sorts of reasons. She was a wild old time in the Community Series.
Bucks, you're looking great in the Cats colours. How are you feeling? It's a bit weird.
What hat am I wearing at the moment?
Well, good to see you, Jake. I feel like I've come to a wedding and I'm underdressed.
How much are you going to pay? Like, you give him the ball every time. What's he going to give you?
Surely half of his contract, eh?
North hold on and win by a point.
Get a win for our group. It's obvious that we haven't really won many games in a long time now, so just to practice that winning feeling.
I just feel so grateful to be out here. It's been a long journey, but all credit to the rehab staff. They got me back to this position.
It's too dangerous for the players to be out here and then they throw us out on the footy field.
It wasn't your average game of footy and probably not the ideal lead-in.
It was a final systems check that came with its challenges, lightning and rain and floods, causing all manner of havoc through the Community Series. It wasn't seamless from a rules perspective. Put the frighteners through the Cats camp at one stage. It wasn't perfect. Just ask Riley Sanders, who learnt that the hard way. And it proved costly for a couple who are going to sit out the early round of the season. Jagger showed that he'll be worth the wait for Blues fans. An American fitted rather seamlessly in over in the West. And the Stars didn't muck around. Zach is in showroom condition, attracting many an eye. Naz, he began his bid, but his footy might match his check and he might become the best in the competition. So we've got to look at the game, at the teams, at the players. Let's put it all to the test. Greg Swan, great to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on, boys.
The honeymoon period's over. You had that last year. You bang straight into the hot seat. Away you go.
Yeah, well, that's right. Now the real season starts. It'll be even hotter, I think. But no, so far so good.
You got your first gut puncher, a suspension handed down, a shot across the bows of the competition, and the trivia will be Harry Schoenberg.
Yeah, well, we sent out some clips to the clubs and of what would be penalised, and Harry hit most of those, or hit them all. To be honest, he had a swinging arm, closed fist, and off the ball. So, he's got a week.
I commend you, Swanee. I've been calling for this for a long, long time, only because this will put the rest of the competition on notice, and there's always got to be one. You've got to break a couple of eggs, but I can nearly guarantee there might be one more pickle that does it throughout the year, but that'll just send a clear message. So you don't have to worry about that too.
That's what you hope for. I mean, I think when it came in, it was, for that, just as a deterrent. And it is interesting. We've had one early in the season, but hopefully that's, as you say, that'll be the last one we see.
The conjecture here will always be around force, won't it?
It will, and again, with the clips we sent out, that'll be Chris O's call whether the force is enough. But in this instance, it was pretty clear that there was enough force. Evans went down, and it was doomed to be a week.
Don't do it, Jared. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, that's the, and we talk about what happens at junior level and things like that too, that they mimic the guys playing, their heroes in the AFL. So there was talk around the juniors that there was a lot of that happening. So hopefully that stops that too.
And the sling tackles, Jared just gave us a number. So as I say, players respond and they react and they adjust their behaviours. Now, we had a couple already on the weekend. So John Newcombe goes and gets a week. So, I understand why. I thought maybe Richards gets up and he might be okay, but this behaviour I don't think will happen halfway through the year or even in a couple of games' time. I don't reckon John Newcombe there is being malicious. I think he just forgot that what we ask him. But in this one, you got two arms almost locked. That's a double action to me, Swanee. So just explain. I don't want to get into the minutiae of this for the rest of the year, but just explain the difference. That to me looked like a more likely suspension than Newcombe.
I think the thing that saved in that instance was that Burns' head didn't hit the ground, and so I think he was lucky because if it did, he was going to certainly get a week. But he doesn't hit the ground, so they're the main differences. Both didn't let go, like I heard you guys talking about it at the start. But you can certainly see with Ed Richards, his head sort of he has a bit of a bounce on the ground. So that's the main difference.
Playing with fire, Sam Durham, in that instance, isn't he?
He was lucky. He
That-
was lucky because if his head hit the ground, he was definitely going to get suspended. Yep.
The new suite of rules, what have you gone through today? And I imagine there are a lot of questions asked and some guidance to the clubs as we all refine for Thursday night.
Yeah, the clubs have been really good and we've asked for a lot. So anything that they're unsure of, send it in and we'll go over and have a look. Some of the stats, you know, with the ruck rule's been probably the one where we've had most feedback. So we had, even on the week, so we had 267 centre clearances. They're jumping at 95%. So really happy about that. So it went from about 20-odd% now jumping at, you know, that sort of percentage. And there was only 7 frees given out of that many contests. So, you know, all the players and the clubs have been really good. So there have been a couple that I think you're going to show me now that were a little bit debatable. But again, we've looked with that with the umpires department. We'll send some more things out tonight, saying that was right, that was wrong. A couple of things which, you know, we've made some adjustments. So yeah, we just keep liaising with the clubs on those. But in the main, it's been really good.
Did you give the umpiring fraternity any instruction as to how to adjudicate it, like to the absolute letter of the law, or did you say, listen, let's just get this bedded down, unless it's an ultra obvious one?
Yeah, I think in the main it is the second. It's ultra obvious. Like, you know, you don't want to have a toe over the line and you get pinged for that. Like, it's got to be pretty blatant that you're walking over, you're putting. It's almost like a foot fault or a, you know, you go across the popping crease. It's got to be pretty blatant that you go across before you, you know, before you get pinged. But you know, the thing which we've encouraged everybody: if you start behind the line and you jump, then you're 99% you'll be fine. So you know, that's been what's happening in the majority of cases.
So Pitnet created confusion because in the first game there was an incorrect free kick.
That's right. And we cleared up, well, we did clear it up that night. I think we spoke to the Fox guys and said, no, that shouldn't have been a free. And, yeah, so we've cleared that up and probably yeah, because he doesn't do much wrong there. He stays on his side.
He ends up on the other side of the line.
He does, but he's just chasing the ball. But even then, it's because, you know, that's just an early jump that misses the footy. He's got sort of half his foot over, but in the main, he hasn't gone across the line to block the other guy from jumping. So anyway, that would be play on in normal
What about the Grundy with the stooging?
Yeah, no, we've looked at that and he got a free for that, but there wouldn't be a free. Now, again, if you don't jump and you want to, yeah, the stooging, you can stooge, but it'll be play on.
So that's like a false inducement. Like it's like that the stand on the mark. If you go the fake handball,
correct,
and they go off the line, then you're not going to pay that.
That's right. So that'll go out today saying that's play on.
And is there an unintended consequence with this? I know Shannon Neal ends up not having a PCL, or that's what we're told.
Yeah.
We've got any concern about the fact that the jumping is back, and that maybe this is an unintended consequence if we get a little space of PCLs?
I think you'd be naive to say that it's not going to happen. It'll happen, but you know, we've sort of given an undertaking. If there was a pandemic of them, you might change it back. But you know, that was a shin. No, that was a shin. So yeah, look, I think it's going to happen. But again, we think the unintended consequences from a good perspective is, you know, scores out of the centre bounces have gone up. Or I mean, it's a very small sample size, but. You know, the things that we wanted, the game length has come back, the scoring's gone up, scoring from centre bounces has gone up. So, you know, we're hopeful that you know, goes into the season proper as well.
Jared Healy had a fit because the line didn't go right across the middle.
Yeah, we fixed that.
You sorted that out for him?
We did.
Okay.
He sent me a couple of texts, but no, we got it. No, it was to do with Amy and their sponsorship of the centre circle, so we couldn't put the line all the way through, but we had a darker line. Anyway, it worked, so it's all been fixed.
We love Amy, by the way.
We do love Amy.
How did last disposal out of bounds go?
Yeah, that's probably been the easiest one, to be honest. I mean, the only thing I suppose is a little bit, you know, a little bit of conjecture around the one that's a bit accidental off your shin or your foot. But the theory on it. This is a good one from Toby where he hits it into Tom Barrass. But again, if you're in the goal square and that happens, that's a goal. That comes off your shin or below your thing, so it's a goal. So that's how we adjudicate it around the ground. This is the best example. Ed Richards goes out of bounds. Brad Hill just picks it straight back up, and that's what we want. We want the game moving. We want the game, and this is the one that's a bit unlucky. It does come off his leg, but as I said, if that was in the goal square and the same thing happened, that'd be a goal. So it's the same.
You're paying that free kick all day long.
Yep.
And so this one.
That should have been. We're going to use the ARC during the season to help with those decisions. We didn't have that fully operational at Henson Park, but we would have picked that up normally. But we're going to use the ARC to help if it's very clear who it's come off. Yeah.
So that message would have come down to the central umpire to say, hey,
that's off Sydney or off whoever. Yep.
Yeah. Well, could have used the ARC the way it rained in that game too.
Yeah, that's right.
The stand rule.
Crispy from Jared in the opener.
Did it have the? Was it umpired diligently enough? Have the players got the hang of it? And what are you hoping that it does on the early evidence?
Yeah, I think again, same thing. We're really happy with it. The players have been, for the most part, very listening and doing as they're told. I mean, I know there's some examples coming, but yeah. So these are pretty blatant, to be honest. And the umpires have spent a whole, twice as much time as they ever have before out at the clubs, telling them what's happening. And, we've given vision of it. I mean, they're pretty blatant. You give the free, you're within 5 metres, you've got to stand the mark. Pretty simple. And in those instances, they did it. This one probably would have been a free 50 last year anyway, because he comes from outside the protected area and then keeps running. If you had the umpires, he calls Nate Caddy there about 3 or 4 times to stand, and he kept moving. So he got pinged 50. Same thing here, stand.
So they're all within 5 metres.
They're all within
the
5. They've got to
stand
within the mark. Stand there. That's simple. And then that's freeing up the short 45s, again, the ability to move the ball and go quicker. So that's the reason that we brought that in.
Jared, game length has been on our radar for a while. The State of Origin game, which I think is absolutely fine. It went long, probably too long for a first up hit out. I'm sure there'll be an adjustment made there. But have you got in your own mind what the ideal game length is? And I know you put things in place that the kick-in's going quicker, the ball up, you don't have to wait. So all these things probably should keep the game moving quicker.
Yeah, well, I think on average they started to get out about 36, 37 minutes, and we want to get it back to, low 30s, 31, 32. Yeah, because it was... Well, 2 things happened. The ball wasn't in play for as long either, so the time in play was reducing, but the length of the game was going up. So we've just tried to bring those... We want the ball in play more, and we want the length of the game down. So we're trying to marry those up.
So they're the numbers that are slowly creeped up over the last couple of years, but last year came back a bit, which hopefully comes back again.
Yep. Well, so far it's come off a couple of minutes.
That's the impact you have already, Swan.
And plus we score an extra goal, so even if you took those off, it'd be further reduced. So hopefully, as I said, it's a very small sample size, but hopefully we can. It keeps going the right way.
Outside of what you're in control of, were you worried about West Coast yesterday to get beaten so badly heading into a season after the years that they've had down the bottom?
I did watch a bit of that game. I mean, maybe we haven't given Port much credit. They were very sharp, Port. They were good. It's always difficult this time of year with pre-season and how hard people have been training and what the build-up's been. I don't know. I mean, it's it was a beautiful day for it. So the skill level probably was a little bit questionable early. Then they sort of got going a little bit and then they dropped off again. So, but pre-season's always hard to measure.
The Gold Coast Suns jumper that they wore on the weekend, I know it raised some eyebrows at the very highest levels in Sydney. Whose decision was to tick off a red and white jumper for the Suns?
I know we're all solid in at the AFL, but it wasn't me. No, it goes... there's a fair bit of debate about that. I must admit, I turned that game on and thought, hang on a minute. But, no, I think that goes through licensing. So, anyway, that's
been sorted.
It's been sorted.
It's been stamped.
It won't happen again.
Never to be seen again.
No, never to be seen again. It's too Sydney like it was.
And quickly, do you watch the NRL season opener over in Vegas and do you get jealous or?
No, I didn't. I didn't watch it. No, I was watching the 2 of our games. I watched North and Collingwood, and then I watched a fair bit of that West Coast game. So no, I didn't see.
So you've been on the ground in Brisbane while Peter V'landys has been spruiking his #1 sport in the country. Is it about time the AFL sought to correct that?
Oh, I think it's not right. So that's the thing that probably peeves you a little bit. Like, you know, we're the biggest game. We've got the most participants, most people watch, most attendees. Like, so there's a bit of poetic license there. But to be honest, he spends a lot of time talking about the AFL, but we don't spend a lot of time worrying about him. All we're trying to do is make the game better and do all those things that we said, make it great for the fans, the facilities we've got to come and watch, and then, the support we get from, Fox and Channel 7 is huge. So we're comfortable. We've got a national code. Obviously, Tassie's coming in, so we're going to be playing in every state. So we're okay, and they're going well, but, we don't worry too much about what they're up to.
All right. We'll see you again in a few weeks once you've got a big sample of work.
Monthly.
It's monthly, is it? All right, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Greg Swan from the AFL with us. Our coaches are about to join us. They are well schooled in these jobs by now. Michael Voss with Carlton, having shown a bit of what they've been working on, and Chris Scott, two-time premiership coach with the Cats, saddles up for the adventure all over again. They are the most compelling figures in the game, the 18 coaches across our competition. We've never taken it for granted, the opportunity that these coaches grant us each year. This season, again, all 18 have committed to appear throughout the year on Monday's Coaches' Night. And we might be slightly biased, but you'd struggle to find access like it anywhere across sports programs around the world. From those who have all the experience, trophy on shelves, to those who are in the formative stages of their coaching days, they will tell us the story of 2026 as it unfolds, the flashpoints for each club, and more broadly for the competition as a whole. Monday night remains Coaches' Night here on 360.
So it starts again Thursday night for you, mate. And the exciting thing is when new players come along now, I don't want to announce your team right now, but we all watched Jagger Smith play on the weekend. Given the circumstances of him missing last year with the ACL, it was exciting to see him run around. He looked like someone that was appreciative of the opportunity just to display how good he is.
Yeah, I think in the last couple of weeks, probably everyone's just seen what we've probably seen behind the scenes for, a couple of years. His first pre-season was, some of the things he did was, you couldn't believe what he was doing in terms of inside and outside of packs. But he's incredibly grateful kid, really humble, obviously exceptionally driven. And I guess, are there going to be better players out there? It's not for me to debate, but what he does is he suits us, and he certainly is complementary to the strengths of our other midfielders. He's an angle changer. He gets in and out of traffic as good as anyone. And as he builds his body and builds his confidence, he's going to turn into a superb player.
You impressed, Scotty? You had a good look at him?
Yeah, we saw him get the ball 37 times. That was... But we were talking off air. Tom Lonergan's come across from Carlton to the Cats, and we knew through him how good he was. So he's picked 3 in the draft, I think.
Yeah,
there must have been handy players picked in front of him.
Yeah.
What will the dynamic be like around Charlie Curnow, do you think?
Well, up to the individuals. I mean, they're the ones that have probably spent a fair bit of time with him over, depending on the person, 7, 8 years of football. So I'm sure that'll be a little bit different, but what we can't afford is obviously clearly make it about him. There's other things we need to achieve out of the game, and if we make it all about him, then we'll get really distracted. But obviously we've got to make it about other things, about the result we want to get, and how we want to obviously approach the game.
Do you have you know him though, like personality-wise, so we'll all be watching to see how you...
Yeah, I think that we appreciate the interest surrounding it, but it's funny, the sort of talk, it's, probably gets more talk outside than what it does inside. But it's worthwhile having a conversation about it. But once you have the conversation about it, you sort of expect us all to be pros, and, we carry on. So we get past this game and don't know when we'll talk about it next. But, it's obviously be built up because that's the storyline people want to see.
Jeremy Cameron, Bailey Smith, we have them on Friday night?
Yeah, they'll both play. So... we won't know for sure until we train tomorrow, but that's information I've been given. So we'll have a few more coming that didn't play. It would have been preferable if they played against Carlton, but Graham Myers is likely as well, so we'll get some good ins.
And Shannon Neal?
So Shannon's fine. Yeah. So I think Swanee was holding his breath that wasn't a PCL rush rules. Yeah. But no, he's just got a bruise.
There we go. So that's panned out probably better than you might have guessed a few weeks back?
Yeah, I mean, we injury-wise, we had almost a seamless pre-season, and the last month has just been a little bit rocky, but all very minor things. So And this is sort of my argument with State of Origin. Again, Bailey Smith getting a really solid hit out in that game has actually held him in good stead.
Terrific. Great to have you both with us. Good luck. Thursday night, Friday night, we'll be with you for Fox.
Nice. Look forward to it.
Thanks. Michael Voss and Chris Scott with us on the first Coaches' Night of the season. Players' Night tomorrow night. A man who's captain for a long time now, Patrick Dangerfield, who leads the Cats, and a newcomer to the leadership, formally at least, Josh Dunkley, who shares the co-captaincy at the Brisbane Lions.
This is unbelievable. At full deck and 25 of the best players from both states. It's going to be awesome. They throw the ball in the middle, they can sort it out themselves.
Warner roving on the boot, and the first goal goes to WA. Ran into trouble. Norton had him collared. Big turnover. Charlie Cameron goals open and slots it. Here we go.
Dacos pounced, darted, and kicked it to Bontempelli. And kicking truly.
Heavy landing.
Dangerfield put his head over it again. Able to feed it through to King, who finishes off the good work. Feeds it out now to Charlie Cameron. Found some space. Hooking back. It's another. Here they come. WA.
He has copped it all afternoon. Zach Butters. Patrick Dangerfield comes charging out. It's Sarong who they would normally cheer here at Optus Stadium.
Stuck it right up it.
It was a worthy start to the season. Chris Scott was there as the Victorian coach with Gary Lyon. Chris, it's great to have you back on 360. Welcome.
Good to be here. Thanks, Jared.
Carlton coach Michael Voss. Fossy, welcome back.
Yes. Scotty.
Is that something that you'll cherish, do you reckon, when your days are done?
Yeah, absolutely. I considered it an honour when I was first asked in October last year. But even with that privilege, it grew on me over time. And really, I think, and Gaz can speak to this as well, the players drove that. You know, the concept wasn't going to work unless the players were right behind it. And really, they've laid a platform now for something potentially bigger. And I'd like to think that if it does grow a little bit, you know, it'd be nice to look back and say, well, sort of we were there at the start.
Yeah, they proudly took ownership of it, which was, from a coaching point of view, I think they were as excited as we were to have them as players, to have these coaches. But the way that they took ownership over the course of 3 or 4 days and the way how quickly they came together, Vossi, was just heartwarming. I'm assuming Western Australia was the same. In fact, I know that to be the case. And then in the space of 5 days, you get this pretty close bond about it. It was a bit of a sad day to say goodbye.
What did we learn that might light the way for the future? So I guess there are two questions. What could it be? And in the first hit out in February, did it ask too much of the players at that time of year?
Well, it's an interesting question. And if your takeaway is that maybe the intensity is too high, for mid-February, I think you need to be able to answer the next question, which is, which time is better? And from my perspective, there are differing views on it, but we had quite a few players from Geelong participating. Lawson Humphries was in the WA team as well. And my take was, we had a game 2 days later at Dingley against Hawthorn, and all of our guys to a man wanted to play in the state game. And that made perfect sense to me. So I suspect over time, if there is clarity around the slot, it will give those players and clubs a chance to sort of think about how they might prep those guys a little differently. But I think, on the whole, those guys are pros. Most of our guys knew Gaz with, months in the lead up that they were going to play and got themselves ready. And we didn't know exactly sort of how it was going to play out. I think one takeaway that was really clear was the game was too long. And so you could mitigate that really easily. And I think that the best forum by a mile, if you want to have a look at little tweaks in the way the game's played, is that one, because the best players tend to adjust. Like, even it was the first time we'd really seen the adjustment of the stand rule. No 50s. Smart players tend to make smart decisions on all sides of the ball. Where could it go to? I mean, I kind of had this loose idea in my head that it could mimic a little bit of, say, the World Cricket Test Championship, where over a course of over a period of years, you kind of qualify for the right to play in the game and say, we're the number one state in the country. But I'd be staggered, given the feedback from the WA and Victorian boys, that there weren't South Australian and allied players who would sort of be sitting there wishing it was them.
You're preaching to the converted. So the other side of the coin is I'm assuming you sat there and watched it, and
it's a good idea until about 10 minutes in, Gaz. So it was sitting in your lounge room watching your full back go down like that wasn't nice. But no, I think the timing of it, from our perspective, we had no issue with it. I think what's been spoken about, the potential adjustments you'd make, I think keeping the scarcity of it to keep the value in it is really important. So it's not just the timing in the season where it is, but maybe how often we do it. I think the uniqueness of that experience, and when you are immersed into those experiences, everyone takes away something amazingly positive out of it. Whether you're over in WA and the build up to it, whether you're part of the actual experience itself, it does create a sort of unique experience. But I would more err on maybe once every couple of years, every 3 years. And so you get, over the course of your career, if you span over 10 years, you might get only 2 or 3 times to be able to play for your state, which I don't think there'd be anybody that wouldn't put their hand up for that if that was the tack we took.
It got said in the lounge room when Wiedering got crushed.
I'm not allowed to swear, Jared. So I thought he had a ruptured spleen, a punctured lung and a broken scapula at that particular time. So, it's just really awkward. I mean, you rarely see those. You rarely see those in our game, let alone, in that particular game. So just put it in the unfortunate basket. Obviously, you're sort of trying to text as much as you possibly can with what's going on. But, as Scotty said on the night, you've got to trust the professionals that are there. They get taken care of very, very well. They're in very good hands. So we had to be patient at that time, make sure that he was diagnosed correctly. And then once we got the information through, we obviously at least, it wasn't too much damage in the end, and obviously a possibility to play this weekend.
Yeah, so we saw him training, running around. So will you wait to make a call on it as late as you can, or?
Oh no, we'll make a pretty firm decision, I would have thought, by the end of tomorrow about whether that's possible or not. But no, he's tracking along really well. So, as you'd expect, the first few steps he makes after only a few days through that incident was pretty remarkable when you consider, when you look at that, it's quite graphic about what happened. But no, he's recovered really well, and we're at this point in time we're expecting him to take his position in the team.
Right.
The overall with Carlton. So you enter the last year of your contract. We've seen Luke Beveridge made light of that. Ken Hinkley fought tooth and nail to win the next contract. Leon Cameron didn't get to halfway. Nathan Buckley got to halfway. They're our recent case studies. As it dawns as a reality for you, Michael, are you coaching for your life as you enter this season?
I feel like that's quite dramatic to sort of explain it like that. From my perspective, it's anything but got to be about me, about this year. Obviously, there's been a significant change within our football club. That decision was made, at the back end of our year. New coaches, new players, a new way of being able to do things. So I guess with that and those decisions, to think you're sort of going to be making that call in 6 weeks, 12 weeks or 18 weeks' time, I think they're making these decisions for the long haul and appreciating that probably the version we roll out in round 1, you hope it's going to be a hell of a lot better come round 20. So that's the way we'll approach it. But the last thing this will be about, 2026 is my contract, it'll be about our club first, and that's the way we'll approach it.
You were brutally honest at the best and fairest. We spoke about this. You said, amongst other things, that you fell short as a leader, and that the group had culturally defeated themselves. So, 5 months on the eve of the season, do you feel that has been addressed? I mean, culturally defeated themselves is an interesting phrase.
Yeah, I separate a little bit of culture and environment as two different things. We've definitely shifted the environment, but the culture happens over a long period of time. And, culturally, we want to be a successful football club, over a long period of time. I mean, Geelong's been able to do that over a couple of decades now. So that's what you're trying to immerse yourself into as a football club. But what we have done is definitely shift the environment. And the energy shifted. The players that we've brought in have created some really significant change for us. And so you're going to see a different brand of football. I think you'll see a different team, and we're really excited with what the year holds.
So is it at all a challenge for you to coach for the future without your own future being secure?
I think it's a pretty simple exercise if you put the club at the forefront of every decision you make, and the team, and where we need to go. And so, if you look at our team from the end of last year and, you know, from the Essendon game to round one, we could have upwards of 10, 11 changes in that team. There'll be 5 or 6, 7, maybe even new personnel to that team, plus 4 or 5 that didn't partake in that game or had limited seasons last year. So we understand that we've got a fair bit of growth in us, whether that's the younger players that will come into our team or the more established ones that we've obviously brought into our football club in the last, I guess, 4 or 5 months.
Scotty, you back from Hawaii? If you believe everything you read, the premiership didn't go your way and you took off and you only got back last week.
Yeah, it's the way of the future for me. Off-season, pre-season's overrated.
So tell us about you had a break of some sort, all coaches do, but was it a longer break than normal? Is it important at this stage that you have an extended break?
Yeah, I mean, it was longer than normal, but they're all a little bit different. This one wasn't as abnormal as I suspect it's being sort of made out to be. I was a little less hands-on through different periods of the training program, but very, very hands-on with some of the off-field stuff, certainly through... I mean, there's no coach. It's impossible to be not working through that October period, especially when you play late into the season. But once the pre-season planning's done, I sort of almost consider it a bit of a badge of honour that we don't explain to people sort of how we think about the inner workings of our footy club. But I will say this much. Once the planning's done for pre-season, the execution bit, I think, is... this is going to sound offensive to assistant coaches, but the running of the drills is a little overrated, maybe, for the head coach. They'd sort of drive most of that anyway. And often, I found when I was there observing as opposed to being really hands-on. So that was... But it was something that was probably driven less by me and more by some of the people around me. And it was just a function of... Steve Hocking asked me at one stage, and Colin Carter used to ask me regularly how long I'd been in the game, and this year was, I think, are we about 30 or a little bit longer than I am?
Yeah.
Have you had a break?
Yeah, we managed to get a couple of weeks in there over Christmas, but...
no, but between seasons, and this was a question, what's the longest break you've had in 30 years? And it was like, well, whatever the off-season was. And it was like, OK, well, it's probably about time just to... One, we think we're equipped to kind of do OK without you for a period of time, and then you can sort of like pick and choose when you think the most important periods for the head coach.
I think there's a notion of the past where the head coach controls everything, and you know, where I think we've certainly come from as an industry is that it's about coaching teams. And when we sort of get together and we start to put together a game model and what that looks like, well, really it's over to the assistant coaches to be able to execute that. We're sort of the guardians, the facilitators of that. You know, lots of conversations, but you know, it seems to be more of an ideal time for senior coaches to be able to get their rest when all the pieces are in place. Everyone seems to be pretty settled, and I think we'll probably see a little bit more of it into the future. There's no doubt about that, especially for especially coaches that have been coaching for a long period of time, and need to obviously save the battery at different times as well. So I think we'll see more of it.
Has Bucks been moving the cones around? You've allocated that to him?
A little bit, but. Not as much as the others, to be frank.
Oh, right.
Because what we didn't want to do was like bring him in and say, now we've got this huge expectation on you. He'd actually been out of the game for a while. I'm going to say he was an assistant coach last in 2011.
Yeah, I just spoke to him about that. He said he did once as a line coach.
Yeah. So even some of the modern technology, like to use a small example, but we wanted him to come in and like listen and. Not learn, that sounds a bit condescending, but kind of take his time to fit in and understand the way we thought about things as opposed to take on what I would call undue responsibility too early. But we're kind of through that period and he's having a big influence. Like he, from working with him, I'm sure, he just loves the game. I mean, you'd remember it from playing with him. He's just one of those guys who's like, too much footy ain't enough. I'm not actually like that, never have been. So it's an interesting... I think he's finding it a little different to his previous experiences coaching.
So as the journey begins anew, how did you process the grand final loss? Do you ever make peace with that?
Oh, not really, but I don't think about it any differently to 2020 when we lost. I do tend to move on pretty quickly, and I don't really think about it that differently to 2022 either when we won. It's like, got to get on with it. Try to, if you preach living in the moment, you can't dwell on the past. And I I came to the conclusion pretty quickly that like these things, they can affect you. I'm not saying it'll never affect it, but if you allow them to affect you or you open the door to that, then there is a big risk that, you know, it has an impact moving into the future. So at the same time, like I've said this a number of times, I don't think you can ever make up for it. I've never believed in that either. Like, we could win the next 3 premierships and I wouldn't feel better about whatever it was, 25. See, I've moved on really quick. Like, it's just, it is what it is, and sort of focusing on 26. But look, I don't think our club is negatively affected by it either. Like, so that shouldn't be misinterpreted as you're not disappointed. It's just, no, we were and we moved on.
How'd you go about the review? Did you do anything collectively, individually? What did you want from that? Anything?
No, we almost never like formally review the last game.
Yep.
I put it in the bucket of, it's kind of like reviewing a game from 6 months ago. It's pretty much irrelevant.
So not watched it at all?
No, I've watched bits and pieces, but
with a group though.
No. Like, but each to their own. I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do. It's just for us, we were able to move into what we needed to work on this year, and along the lines of not opening the door to those scars or not letting it scar you. I think if you're going to make a mistake, you're better off making a mistake moving on as opposed to overreacting to one game. Like, again, I've got no interest in really reliving that sort of last day especially, but the last month was pretty close to seamless. Like, it was, you know, if you could, and I would say until the prelim, because in retrospect we weren't going quite as well as we thought. Tom Stewart was a huge out, and there were a few guys sore that we thought didn't realise that they were quite as sore as they were. But no, I hate to sound flippant about it, but it was a disappointing period of my life. But I've got heaps of them, and I just keep pushing on.
Coaches Night on a Monday here on 360. Chris Scott and Michael Voss with Castle Knights Awards Thursday and Friday nights. And then on the couch follows up Jack Riewoldt with Nathan Buckley, Jordan Lewis and Jonathan Brown to set the scene for opening round 2026. Since our inception, the players have taken us on the journey of the season. Nick Dacos has joined our suite of players for 2026, along with Josh Dunkley and Jordan Dawson. We've got the young stars back, those who have faced their challenges, unashamed favourites, Errol and Took and Andrew Brayshaw, those who have seen it all, Dangerfield and Green, the tumults that Zach Merritt has been through, and those who can lay claim to the next big thing, Ed Richards is there. So Players Night on Tuesday throughout the season on 360. Every Monday we'll start with the awarding of the GVPs. Ford has a major announcement to make before you cast your votes for real. You've made a little adjustment.
Yes, a tinker. We've gone the 5-4-3-2-1. It's three votes over the whole round. We just need to. So this is what it would have looked like. I had a practice, and bear in mind, I only watched about half the games. I thought Jagger Smith was superb. Zach Bailey is in for a year. Josh Tracy, he might kick 75 goals. Butters looks like he wants to be the best player in the comp, and Tim English. The game, I did that game and commentated. He was unbelievable. They don't count. They don't count. That gives you a little idea. At least we get a bit more scope.
You've got a little fault line there, I suspect.
Got a little bit of scope. Favourites will still get a good look in.
Good on you. See you tomorrow night.
We're back again.
We are. Okay. Let's head on the couch with Jack Riewoldt. As the journey begins anew, how did you process the grand final loss? Do you ever make peace with that?
Oh, not really, but I don't think about it any differently to 2020 when we lost. I do tend to move on pretty quickly, and I don't really think about it that differently to 2022 either when we won. It's like, got to get on with it. Try to, if you preach living in the moment, you can't dwell on the past. And I came to the conclusion pretty quickly that like these things, they can affect you. I'm not saying it'll never affect it, but if you allow them to affect you or you open the door to that, then there is a big risk that, it has an impact moving into the future. So at the same time, like I've said this a number of times, I don't think you can ever make up for it. I've never believed in that either. Like, we could win the next 3 premierships and I wouldn't feel better about whatever it was, 25. See, I've moved on really quick. Like, it is what it is, and sort of focusing on 26. But I don't think our club is negatively affected buy it either. So that shouldn't be misinterpreted as you're not disappointed. It's just, no, we were, and we moved on.
How'd you go about the review? Did you do anything collectively, individually? What did you want from that? Anything?
No, we almost never formally review the last game.
Yep.
I put it in the bucket of, it's kind of like reviewing a game from 6 months ago. It's pretty much irrelevant.
So not watched it at all?
No, I've watched bits and pieces, but
with a group though.
No. But each to their own. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. It's just for us, we were able to move into what we needed to work on this year, and along the lines of not opening the door to those scars or not letting it scar you. I think if you're going to make a mistake, you're better off making a mistake moving on as opposed to overreacting to one game. Again, I've got no interest in really reliving that sort of last day especially. But the last month was pretty close to seamless. It was, if you could, and I would say until the prelim, because in retrospect we weren't going quite as well as we thought. Tom Stewart was a huge out, and there were a few guys sore that we thought didn't realise that they were quite as sore as they were. But I hate to sound flippant about it, but it was a disappointing period of my life. But I've got heaps of them, and I just kept pushing on.